The worst Marvel storylines of all time are about to be counted down right here.
Ew.
So stay tuned. Welcome back, Gainers, to another incredible, exciting, fantastic episode of ComicGains! And if you're new to the show, I'm Adam.
I'm Zach, and this is Princess Royal Highness, looking very low today, just like usual, doing the Princess Wave. You do too. Bow and respect, and of course, there's the Coco Dog.
Coco's here. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back. It's Monday, and we have an awesome new segment. We're always testing out new things around here, right?
Yeah.
Drinking new beers, drinking new juices, reading new comics, having new segments. And today is an extra cool one. I actually really enjoyed making this list. So today we are counting down the 10 worst storylines in Marvel Comics history. So this is a pretty daunting task, right, Zach?
Yeah, it took me out of my comfort zone a little bit, so we'll see how this goes on my part.
Yeah, it's fun researching like good stories, but researching bad stories is also kind of fun too, but weird, just in a weird way. You're like, how much do I hate this story? So before we get into how we came about this and how we got to this 10 list and who came up with it, let's all just take a break real quick and have a drink.
Yes, we're going to have this awesome mango-flavored sparkling drink with mango. And I can't read the name, but this is what it looks like.
This mango drink with mango. A la mango. Dude, those like see-through cans like freak me out.
Yeah.
They freak me out a little bit.
What the?
It's like, it looks like an aluminum can, but it's made of plastic. Is it plastic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, it's pretty tasty. It has a good mango flavor to it. Not like when you get those sparkling drinks, you like take a drink, like it tastes like they use just like a small splash of mango. It's just more water than mango. This one actually tastes mango-y. I like it.
Nice. Mango-y. You know what else tastes mango-y? Hanging out with us on Whatnot almost every weekend, but this weekend we will be away at Rose City Con in Portland. So our very good friend Gary B is taking over for us. So come hang out with him. He'll have stuff listed down below. Everybody, we need the army to support Gary B. He's a super awesome guy in the community. It's his very first show, so come help him out. It's going to be amazing. All right. The 10 worst stories in Marvel Comics history. How did we come up with this? Did we read every story ever written in Marvel and the team got together and created a list? No, that's not how it happened. I wish that'd be cool if that's how it happened. But this list is from a website called Ranker.com, and they basically take a bunch of polls on different nerd type topics, and this is called like Total Nerd, and they had 5,000 people vote on different Marvel stories, and they have them ranked actually like how many people voted for each one of these stories, and they came up with a top 10 list. And they put them in order, and we're going to count it down. So we're going to go at number 10 all the way down to number 1. And I think most of these we agree are all bad stories. I don't know if I necessarily agree of the order that they're in, and we can maybe kind of like touch on that a little bit if it doesn't get too crazy. I mean, there's a lot that are probably just tied for crap, but you know, like that's crap. You know, I don't know if one voted more crap than another one, but it's super fun to talk about goofy stories and how they came and why they're so bad, and it's going to be exciting. So
very cool.
Hang tight. Get ready for the worst story you ever heard. All right. Number 10 on the list. Back in 2014, Avengers and X-Men Axis. You guys remember Axis? Did you read that story? Well, Rick Remender, one of Zach's favorite writers of all time, wrote this story with artists Adam Kubert and Terry Dodson. Both did work on the book, so you would think like two amazing artists, really great writer. This should be like chalked up to be a great story. Well, it didn't quite turn out that way. And if you're not familiar with the Axis storyline, this is right after Professor Xavier was killed by Scott.
Okay.
He killed him. It was kind of a weird time where they're like, it's weird that Scott killed Professor X, but you kind of understand. And Red Skull was like, dude, you know how I can get powerful? I'm going to cut out Professor X's brain and attach it to my head, and then by proxy, I'll gain all his mental abilities. Because that's how it works, right?
Yeah, sure.
Right? You just like cut open someone's head and take their brain and put it on your head.
Siler.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. There's a lot of that going on. I think there's a point where like the evil Reed Richards, that's why his head's actually bigger, because he like attaches other parts to his brain. Like, you know, like where he wears the helmet and his head's actually like larger. We're getting off topic. But when he does this, he takes on the moniker of the Red Onslaught. So we get a brand new Onslaught, which is called the Red Onslaught, which I think Onslaught was red anyways, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Wasn't he red?
Red and blue or purple?
Yeah, kind of looked like a weird Magneto, but this one's called the Red Onslaught. And he was very powerful. He had the brain abilities of Professor X, and he was basically just starting this huge battle with the X-Men and the Avengers, and everyone's trying to like fight him and figure it out. Well, it comes to this big head where you've got Doctor Doom and Scarlet Witch. They decide they're going to come together and make a spell that will reverse the brain attachment of the to Red Skull. And while they're doing it, they accidentally do the wrong spell, because that's what happens in these sort of things.
Sure.
And what it does is it changes not all, but a lot of the heroes into villains, and the villains into heroes, and then you get like this long, drawn-out storyline of like the villains being heroes. And I think actually that part of the story a lot of people liked, because there's like, if you see there's like Carnage #1 Axis, which is like a comic book. It's actually Carnage being a hero, and it's super weird, but I think people actually kind of like that. Like, he saves some people, and he leaves like, your friendly neighborhood Carnage, like leaves a little note after he like saves some people. Mm-hmm. And I think that part they liked of it, but the whole deal with the brain attached to Red Skull was super bogus, and everyone thought that was a really bad plot point and very silly, and it ends in kind of a crazy way. There's some side things that came out of this that was kind of cool. This is where we got Superior Iron Man. So like you're wondering where they got the evil Iron Man from. That was from this storyline. And roughly about 6 months after this story came out, the very, very popular Hickman Secret Wars came out and just overshadowed everything. Mm-hmm. So everything that came out before that was considered pretty crappy. So some of the cool things that switched places, you got like the Deadpool comic had an Axis one. There was like a good Hobgoblin one. At this point, Apocalypse was actually a good guy as a little kid.
Oh.
And he turns into his evil version of Apocalypse again when he switches. So it's kind of a strange thing. But this is number 10 on the list, so it's probably the least of these crappy stories. And it is what it is. I don't think we needed a red Onslaught. What do you think?
Yeah, it sounds kind of lame. I'm not going to read it. Maybe I'll buy the books, but I'm not going to read them.
Red Onslaught.
Red Onslaught.
Yeah, number 10.
All right. Well, number 9 on the list is the Clone Saga.
The Clone Saga!
And we're going to be, let the princess show the maximum clonage.
Terrible name, too.
Horrible.
They're like, remember Maximum Carnage was really popular? Well, here's Maximum Clonage. I don't even think that's a real word, is it?
I don't know.
Clonage?
Clonage? We're going to have a lot of clonage over here, baby. Like, what? I don't know. Anyways, this whole story, we're specifically talking about the 1994 to the 1996 run. That was, could be argued be one of the worst kind of stories ever made. Could be.
But somehow only number 9.
But somehow only number 9. The main contributors for this series is Jerry Conway, Terry Kavanagh, and Howard Mackey.
Good old Howard Mackey.
Those are the people you can blame for this. Anyways, how this basically happened was, Spider-Man had a clone, blah, blah, blah. Clone died. Turned out the clone wasn't dead. He comes back. He's like, hey, I'm Spider-Man. I'm Peter Parker. No, you're Spider-Man. No, you're the clone. Anyway, one of them believes that they're actually the clone. And so that one leaves New York City and takes on the name of Ben Reilly. Whatever, aka the Scarlet Spider. Mm-hmm. Some things happen. Aunt May gets ill.
Blonde hair.
Yes, yeah. yes, exactly.
That's
Change it up a little bit. Oh, okay, that's why. So Aunt May gets ill, comes back, and Peter and Ben meet. It's like, what the heck? Blah, blah, blah. And, yeah, it's, they get a fight, but then they're like, we're so much alike. Let's be brothers. We're brothers, right? And then, it's taking the DNA test, and they say that, what was that? Peter Parker is the clone, and then Ben Reilly is the real one.
Mm-hmm.
So Peter Parker leaves with Mary Jane. I mean, that's kind of crazy right there. It's like, she spent more time with the supposedly clone Peter Parker.
Technically, they never would have been together, right? Or no, would they have been?
They would have been together since, but Ben Reilly wouldn't have been together with her.
Yeah, that's right. 149.
Yeah, it's very, very confusing. Anyways, leaves, and then comes back, I believe. They did a DNA test and it said, that's happened. Ben Reilly is the clone and Peter Parker is the real one. And then, actually, it's Peter Parker is the clone and Ben Reilly is it's a very, very, very confusing.
A lot of people got angry when you find out that the Spider-Man you've been reading about for the last, 20 years? Would have been 20 years was actually a fake clone.
The clone. So,
some pretty major events that took place.
And then they backed out on that, and then they went back. It's like, no, Ben Reilly is actually the clone. And the Jackal was doing it, but then it ended up being that Harry Osborn was the mastermind. Norman Osborn was the mastermind. See, it's all very confusing. I am very, very confused by this story. But they both are still in there. The real Peter Parker and Ben Reilly, each doing their own kind of things up until this day. Oh yeah, also Kane was introduced in the story, along with a few other people. So a lot of
Spider-Side.
They also killed a lot of Spider-Man.
Ben Reilly actually dies. He dies.
Yeah, but then he comes back.
Different one.
Oh, different.
It's not the same Ben Reilly. It's from
confusing.
Ben Reilly from an alternate reality. That Ben Reilly really dies.
Yeah,
and everyone was really happy about that.
I mean, I've had 30 years to get this story straight. I'm still confused.
It is confusing.
I am very confused.
I mean, they ruined the death of Aunt May. But literally, they have this beautiful moment where Aunt May's dying, and Peter's holding her hand and is dying, and Ben Reilly's outside the window crying, ruining the moment. What? It's like, get out of here, you clone!
Oh man, yeah, it's ridiculous. And this wasn't even the only clone story. This was just the worst one. But there's a good one.
There's a decent clone story, but
that's for another video.
That's for another day. Yeah, Clone Saga. I mean, I'm one of those people that I kind of liked it a little bit, and that's when I started getting really deep into Spider-Man. So I actually read more about Ben Reilly at the time than I even knew about Peter, which is like a sin, but that's how it goes.
Talk about that later.
That's how it goes. All right, number 8 on the list. Let's talk about Civil War. Wait, Civil War would never make this list, but Civil War 2 would. We got Civil War 2, 2016. This event came out. We don't really actually have very many of these books, so I think Princess had a Scotty Young version of Civil War 2. Brian Michael Bendis wrote this story, one of my favorite writers, and David Marquez did the artwork on it. So, little backstory. In 2006, a story called Civil War came out, written by Mark Miller, which we have on the back wall there. Considered to be one of the greatest events ever written in Marvel history. It was an amazing thing, had a great storyline about the registration of superpowered characters, and Captain America takes one side, Iron Man takes one side. You can kind of understand both sides of the, who's right, who's wrong. It's very believable, and the heroes split up on whose side, and they have this great battle, and all this crazy stuff happens, and it changes the Marvel universe forever. It just reaches out and touches everything, and everyone's so amazed about how good it is, and it is really good. Well, they decided to make a movie on it called Captain America Civil War the movie, and the people at Marvel were like, dude, you know what would go really well with this? A comic book. Well, we already did Civil War, so why don't we do Civil War 2? And this is a pretty ridiculous story. So at this time in Marvel, the X-Men are out and the Inhumans are in, because Marvel doesn't have the rights to the X-Men, so they're pushing the Inhumans. And the Terrigen Mist comes out, and they make a whole bunch more Inhumans, and this new one comes out called Ulysses, and he is a precog. So, do you remember that movie Minority Report?
Yeah.
Where he those people tell the future, and they're like, that guy's gonna kill that guy. go arrest him before he doesn't, throw him in the slammer. It's basically what this is. They like copied that storyline. So Ulysses can tell, or supposedly can see the future of who is going to do what, and they drag this whole thing out where he explains to the Avengers, like, hey, I knew this was going to happen, and this is why. And they're like, oh, that's really believable. Well, some of them believe him, some of them don't. And it goes in this whole thing where Carol Danvers believes Ulysses, and she's like, okay, we need to start arresting everybody that he said is going to do a bad thing. And this time, they make Tony a little more of the good guy, and Tony Stark, Iron Man, is the guy against Carol. So they're the two sides of Civil War II, and there's a bunch of crazy stuff. It really paints a bad picture for Carol Danvers. It's like she, at this point, people were just starting to like her again. She's starting to become a little bit better of a character, and then they totally destroy her by her taking this side. Makes her look like such a bonehead over everything that goes on. And the big thing that happens with this is the precog says that Hulk is going to kill a whole bunch of people. So they're like, Hulk's going to kill all these people. We need to deal with him before he kills all these people. And they tie up Bruce, and they get everyone together, and they're like, what are we going to do? And Iron Man's like, we can't kill Bruce. He's my good buddy. And like, we need to kill Bruce. He's going to kill millions of people. And out of nowhere, Hawkeye shows up and shoots him in the head with an arrow and kills him. And he's like, there, I did it. I killed him. Now we don't have to deal with this problem anymore. And it's pretty messed up. And Bruce actually dies. Hulk really gets killed. And strangely enough, this leads into the series later on when Hulk comes back to life, is how he becomes Immortal Hulk. It's like a god brings him back to life and he becomes Immortal Hulk.
Oh.
It's a side story. But after Hulk dies, there's another precognition, which is pretty crazy. Miles Morales will kill Captain America. And so everyone's looking for Miles, and they're like, okay, we need to arrest this guy and take care of him, get rid of him before he kills Captain America. And there's a lot of stuff with Kamala's a little bit more of a main character at this time. And Miles is kind of like, I would never kill Cap. Like, I love that guy. I love that dude. And there's a specific place where he's supposed to do it, like in front of the White House or the Capitol building. It's like one of those two. So like, he's going to like go there, and him and Cap will show up and he'll kill him. So I thought this was kind of crazy, but Miles is like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go there, and I'm not going to kill him, which sounds silly. Like, I just wouldn't go there, and then that would prove that it wouldn't happen. But he decides that if he goes there and he doesn't kill Cap, then that'll prove that he wouldn't kill Cap. It's kind of ridiculous, but it works. He goes there, and he doesn't end up killing Cap, and everyone realizes that Ulysses is full of crap, and it's the worst event ever. And it's pretty crazy. Funny thing with this, though, that ties in a little bit later, is that they use that vision of Miles like taking out Captain America later on when they do Secret Empire, and Miles actually does take out Evil Steve at that same place. So that weird precognition kind of came true. You know, like when Captain America becomes evil in that Secret Empire's crappy storyline, which didn't make the list, surprisingly. Actually, I think I heard that was like a kind of a decent read, but a crappy story. But Civil War II!
Ulysses was right.
Precognition. Would you dig that?
I don't think I'd read it either. This sounds like a bad story. Sounds like
that's why it's on the list. I think that's a good spot for it, though.
But it's not
number
horrible.
8.
It's not horrible. There's other books on this list.
People like after it came out were like, yeah, it's pretty crappy. Pretty crappy.
Well, we got number 7 on the list. Heroes Reborn.
Reborn Heroes?
Reborn Hero. Not the heroes we wanted, but the heroes we needed. Drawn very poorly. Just saying.
I decided to bring Rob Liefeld back.
Anatomy. What's anatomy? I know what no, I don't know anatomy. Nope, I don't. This was printed originally between the time of 1996 and 1997. And the people that worked on it was kind of not pushed off to the side, but Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld were not working on Marvel, but they worked on this book because Marvel wanted to offload some of their work to other people, and maybe potentially want to bring them back into the fold, which they eventually did, for a time anyways.
Yeah, it's kind of like that they subcontracted out the work when Image was getting really popular, and then they're like, "Yo, we need to get back some of that Image love. How about Rob Liefeld and Jim Lee?
Yes.
How about that?
How about that?" And there's some funny stuff. I'll tell you at the end of it. But anyways, this is just right out. This starts right after the Onslaught Crisis series happened, and it was Onslaught Crisis. It was the death of the Fantastic Four and the Avengers. Well,
everyone that had crappy books.
Yes.
They're like, everyone's book who sucks is getting killed right now.
Yeah, apparently that's
Spider-Man didn't get killed.
Yeah, I'm like, what the heck? Well, they did die, but then they got brought back in a different. Well, it's not timeline, but it's like a micro dimension called Counter Earth.
Yep.
And they were brought back into Counter Earth by not Reed Richards, Franklin Richards. Yep. Franklin Richards, and he's basically controlling the
super powerful
place with his powers. He has he's very powerful. He has time warping powers, but time and space warping powers. It's very great. And interesting thing is, they get into a lot of different stories on Counter, but they have no memories of their past, and I think they look a little different than the normal ones that you see. But
very large chests.
Very large chests and weirdly looking feet.
I think that's where cat boobs came from, right?
Yeah, I think
from the storyline.
Well, Franklin's doing a good thing. He saved probably some of his favorite heroes from the chopping block and his papa, and it kind of makes sense. And well, some people didn't like it, the Celestials generally, and they say, "Hey, Hey, Franklin Richards, you have a choice to make. Either destroy your Counter Earth or destroy the real Earth. We're gonna destroy one of them. You get to choose." And I guess there was a little bit of back and forth talking about it, and they come to a understanding of, hey, we won't destroy either one of them, but you have to take the Fantastic Four and the Avengers back to Earth. And they didn't say whether they need to give back their memories or not, but they can't be in Counter Earth anymore because there's some kind of, they feel like there's some kind of like, hey, this potentially could affect us, so we need to
when
chop
you
it.
say Celestials, did you mean fans? The fans actually said like, need to get rid of this universe.
I don't know. It very well could be. Very well could be. I mean, it sounds pretty stupid to me. I mean, just like, some of your favorite characters just suddenly they no longer exist, and they're in this crappy Counter Earth, right? And this is all the story. I mean, there's stories going on right now of them doing stuff, but mainly the main story is like, hey, it's these Celestials want to destroy this Counter Earth, right? And then they make the agreement and like, okay, whatever, we'll remove them. So guess what? Franklin Richards no longer there, and the Avengers are no longer there. Guess who shows up? Doom.
Oh, okay.
Doom shows up, kind of takes control and all of that, and I guess for some reason the Celestials were still trying to mess with this Counter Earth because they're causing seismic activities and doing all this kind of BS. I believe the Celestials called the Dreamer was messing with them quite a bit, and Doom decides that he needs to do something about it. So,
was Doom there?
Yeah, Doom was there.
Okay.
Doom was there. All right. So, what's happening is there's a lot of fights going on with the Celestials, especially the one that's causing a little issue. So, Doom figures out, hey, I can use their powers, their energy that they're creating by fighting, and I'm able to move Counter Earth in the same universe as regular Earth, and that's kind of an issue, right?
Like something Doom would do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and he kind of gets in trouble a little bit. It's like so everybody's kind of go after him for that. And you know what? I'm gonna say forget this. I'm gonna send Counter Earth back to where it begins and give the powers to somewhere else. And yeah, that's the whole story. It was a pointless story that.
That sounds terrible.
It was.
I was like,
terrible.
listen, I'm like, this sounds terrible.
Yeah.
It's like a mini reboot of garbage.
Yeah, of garbage. None of it really even mattered at all.
I want to reboot this garbage.
I mean, I thought, okay, Doom's into it, and it's like, okay, I'm reading a little bit about it, like, oh, Doom basically just kind of wasted his time. He wanted to control Counter Earth, which is a pocket dimension, and that would have been cool for him to say, hey, instead of like a little city, you got a whole planet to take control of. But, you know, plans didn't work out, and he just had to wash his hands of it and
Heroes
be done.
Reborn.
Heroes Reborn.
Heroes Reborn.
Bunch of garbage.
Yeah. Straight from the heap. All right, guys. Number 6. We're getting into the real garbage now. We've got 2009's Ultimatum. I'm about to give you an ultimatum, Zach.
Please.
An ultimatum. You read this book or else. All right. This book had everything going for it. It should have been amazing. It is written by Jeff Loeb and drawn by David Finch. That just sounds good, right?
That's
like Jeff Loeb has written some of the most like seminal Batman stories of all time, as well as many other great stories. And David Finch is just awesome. I mean, look at that cover; just looks awesome. Well, this is kind of a weird thing that happened. So, the Ultimates series is basically the Avengers in the Ultimate Universe. So the original Ultimate Universe where you had Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate X-Men, Ultimate Fantastic Four. They have their thing going. It's kicked off, I think Ultimate Spider-Man is considered like a very, very great run. And the Ultimates series 1, 2, and 3 are award-winning. Like Mark Millar wrote Ultimates 1, 2, and 3, and they're amazing. I've read them. If you guys ever get a chance to read those books, the Avengers movies that we watch and love are basically that story. They're cookie cutters of that story. It's almost very, very similar. They're a little darker because Millar kind of like makes the characters a little more like nobody's really good. Like Nick Fury and even Captain America, even Iron Man are all kind of like weaselly. Like they're good, but they're not that good at the same time. And check them out. But that's what leads up to this story. So at this time, Marvel's like, okay, 2009. The Ultimate Universe is starting to wind down. They're like, we're going to finish this out. And actually, the X-Men, Spider-Man, and Fantastic Four and all 3 of those series end with Ultimatum. So the very last issue of Ultimate Spider-Man ends with this. Same with Fantastic Four and them. So it's over. And it's kind of a weird thing because you had all these really great writers and creative teams that had these characters that they really cared about, and a lot of the fans really loved them and enjoyed them. And then you brought in a new guy, Jeff Loeb, who was not part of the Ultimate Universe creative team, and was like, we want you to end it all. Like, end everything that's going on. And he's like, oh yeah, like, you can take all these characters and you can kill anybody you want in any fashion you want to kill them. And he just goes nuts. So the story is, at the end of Ultimates 3, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver die.
Okay.
And in this kind of crappy way. And Magneto's like, my children are dead! And he steals Thor's hammer Mjolnir. For some reason, he can pick it up. There's some weird things that go on with Thor in the Ultimate Universe where people really aren't sure if he's a crazy person that thinks he's a Norse god or if he is actually a Norse god. It's kind of a cool, I really enjoyed that part of the storyline. But he switches the magnetic poles. So he flips the poles and basically makes this crazy disaster on Earth. So there's earthquakes and volcanoes and tsunamis and just tons of people die. A tsunami hits New York and just all these people start getting killed. Like Daredevil dies in the flood. Almost all the X-Men get killed. Like Wolverine dies. Like the Ultimate Wolverine actually dies. Magneto rips out his skeleton.
Okay.
A lot of the Ultimates all get killed. Like that's that really gratuitous scene where the Blob actually like eats the Wasp. Like takes her body and just eats her. And then Giant Man grows big and he bites off like the Blob's head. And just like half of all the characters we've loved and enjoyed of this universe all get killed in these like crazy ways, which you think would be cool, but people just didn't like it. People were like, I don't know, this is like too much. And you know, it's just everything gets destroyed at this point. Like you just wrecked the whole Ultimate Universe. And it kind of maybe would have worked a little better if it actually was the end. They decided not to end the universe at this point, so they just left it like destroyed and effed up, and then they rebooted it not really reboot. They left it in the same universe, but that's when they came out with like all those like the black covers that said like the new Ultimate Universe, like when they did all the new ones, and they kept basically the characters that were still alive, and they got to keep going in that universe, and which led eventually into the Secret Wars in 2015. So they went like a good another like 6 years before they ended it all. But it was a herder. Like it was just not a good idea. They just should have had somebody else who was writing in the series to write this. And everyone's not sure what Jeff Loeb was thinking when he wrote this, because he is amazing. I met the dude. He was super nice, and he's written some very, very great stuff. On a side note of this, issue 1 was the highest selling book in 2009 and sold 100,000 copies.
That's a record for now.
Yeah, 100,000 copies of issue 1 was sold in 2009, and it's widely considered to be a terrible, terrible story. So, if you ever get the chance, check out that Ultimatum. Maybe not.
No. That sounds trouble.
Right?
Sounds like a lot of trouble.
You want to see everyone just get killed in a really gratuitous way, but I don't know. They've written a lot of stories like that, but in this one, people was not digging that.
No, it's also trouble. The next book on the list, we got number 5 on the list, Trouble. It's a Mark Millar story.
Oh, he wrote this?
Yeah, in 2003. It's a mini-series. Obviously, it's 5 issue
I've seen this cover like a lot, and I never knew what this was, and for some reason I thought this was like that weird movie where those people were trying to like rig an election or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. It's a little weird. It's all about these 4 friends. Well, 2 of them. Well, it's 2 couples really, and the girls are friends, and the dudes kind of know each other because why not? And they go into camp, and they're having a sex-filled summer vacation where they work, do all this escapades. So
escapades.
Yes. So actually, let me dial back. So the dudes, they're actually brothers, Ben and Richie. Right?
So they do actually know each other.
They actually do know each other.
It's actually they're kind of friends. Like brothers.
Man, this is weird. Well, Richie's dating Mary, and Ben's dating May, and May and Mary are best friends.
And we're talking May, like as in Aunt May.
Yeah.
And Mary Parker as in Peter Parker's mom.
Yes. And Ben is Ben Parker, and Richie is Richard Parker. Richard Parker. Yeah. So it's Peter Parker's family, before the Spider-Man. It's a prequel, basically, before he was even born.
When they're young and banging?
Yes, and they are banging. Well, kinda.
Are they swapping?
Well,
their wife swapping?
Well, this is the controversy. It's kind of like, whoa, these iconic characters are doing the dirty and doing all this stuff that normal kids probably would be doing back then. Mary and Richie, they're trying to stay safe, not do anything. And May and Ben, she's being very, happy-go-lucky. And it's all because of this person telling them certain things about their future, which turn out to be correct, mostly. And, well...
Good fortune teller.
Yeah. But, they're messing around and everything, or at least some of them are. And, of course, May gets pregnant, right?
May gets pregnant?
Yeah,
okay.
May gets pregnant. This is the interesting part. Very interesting. So pay close attention. May gets pregnant. She tells Ben, "Hey, I'm pregnant." It's and then Ben tells her, "I'm sterile."
Oh.
So what we'll find out during these issues is that May and Richie are hooking up, right?
Oh shoot.
Yeah. And so all of this stuff's happened. This almost destroyed a friendship, a brotherhood, all these relationships. And there's a lot of negative emotions. They're thinking about, getting rid of the kid, so that's a touchy subject. Thinking about, ending the whole thing. That was another thing. Potential abuse from, the lady's father. Because very Catholic or Christian.
They're just
and all
gonna
that.
beat the kid out of him?
Yeah, well, there's a lot going. There's a lot going
That's
on.
one of the options. All right, Dad, beat the kid out of me.
Well, no. Well, anyways, it's touching on so many subjects. It's like it's this happy-go-lucky story that turns dark pretty quickly into the story. It's like it's very, very. Oh, okay. This is a slap of reality, and it's all about characters that you would below. You know, Ben Parker and Aunt May. You never really seen Peter Parker's parents like in actual story. It's like, oh, this is them in the past. That's about it. So all this stuff is happening to the characters that are beloved, and it's like, what the heck? Well, what happens is that the baby's born. Baby gets through it. They go through it. Baby's born. It's May's baby. Calls the baby Peter, and takes the baby. Here, Mary, this is your child now. And they do it.
Is this in continuity?
I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, it could be, and it would make sense.
Okay.
But the reason why she did that, she placed the baby in the hands of Mary, because if May's father found out, we wouldn't really know what he'd probably like try to take them out or something like that, because I guess it was kind of potentially an abusive father. So there was that a part of the story. I mean,
it sounds like a terrible story.
It sounds like a terrible story. And the basic concept was created by Bill Jamis and Joe Quesada.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the story. So you can blame them for that. You can blame.
And they made Mark Millar write it?
Yep. Yeah, the concept was done by them, and then Mark Millar, wrote the story.
Okay.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, too, all the covers are like real people on the covers. They're like not drawings, which is weird too. I wonder like who those people are. They're like, we posed for this crappy book.
Yeah. We are May and Mary Parker.
We are May and Mary.
May and Mary Parker.
Yeah.
Beloved characters.
All right. Let's forget all about that. Because the next book is going to help you forget. Because it's number 4, 2007 Spider-Man One More Day. Which I'm surprised this wasn't the number 1 book on the list. I would have thought One More Day. That's pretty much one of the most hated stories of all time. To actually say like you can just like say that at a con and watch people turn around and get angry. They're just like, one more day. And people are like, huh? Who said that? Who said one more day? Well, this book was written by J. Michael Straczynski, and the artwork is done by Joe Quesada, who at the time was also the editor of Marvel Comics. So he's the guy in charge. He's the one that wanted this book to happen. And it's this kind of a crazy story. So the marriage of Peter Parker and Mary Jane has always been a hot topic for Marvel over the years. Like, do people want them to be married? Do they not want them to be married? I mean, it's a thing that I feel like people like them together and they like them being married, but then sometimes the story gets stale. Like, how many stories can you write once they're married together for the next, 20 years? Like, you might be able to write 5 years of stories, but can you write 10 years of stories? Can you write 20 years of stories? Like, is Peter never going to, go on another date with another girl or can you have a character with no love interest besides just one girl? Maybe not. It's sort of a strange thing. Plus, Marvel's, which is very different than DC, is always never trying to date their characters. So, Peter is roughly somewhere between the age of 25 and 35 at any given time. So if he gets a little too old, a couple years from now, he may actually be younger than he was before. I know that's confusing, but it's just the way Marvel goes, because since 1963, he got into college, and then since then has somewhere been around the same age for the next 50 years. Yeah. So it's a weird thing, and if Peter's married to Mary Jane for too long, then it's strange that they don't have any kids, and once they have kids, then Peter's all of a sudden 40 years old, and it's just weird. It's a weird topic, so they're always trying to get them together and trying to break them back up again. Well, Joe Quesada was like, now is the time. We need to break up the marriage. We need to redo. Spider-Man's just not doing as well as he's been, although he's actually been doing really well, because J. Michael Straczynski is probably one of the better writers that ever took over for Spider-Man and did a whole bunch of really good stories and revamped the character and made him really, really cool. And this is about the end of his run when Caseta asked him to break them up, and they came up with this idea. And if you know, in Civil War, Peter revealed his identity to the world and was like, "I'm Peter Parker, everybody. I'm registering. I'm on Iron Man's side." And that turned out to be a huge mistake, because it ended up getting Aunt May shot. So Aunt May gets shot over the deal because everyone found out who Peter really was. And for some reason, with all these super geniuses in the world that can fix everything, all the super geniuses could not fix Aunt May's bullet wound. And we're like, "You're gonna die. There's nothing Reed or Doctor Strange or anybody can do to save your super old Aunt May. And the only thing you can do to fix her is visit Mephisto." Right? Mephisto? Hang out, go see Mephisto, and like, "Okay, I need to save my Aunt May. What can you do for me, Mephisto?" And he's like, "Well, if you give up your marriage to Mary Jane, I will heal your aunt for you." Which is like so stupid. Like, just even saying that is dumb. So Peter and MJ just talk about it, and he's like, "Well, I really love my Aunt May a lot, so this is the only way," and she agrees with it for some reason. I don't know, like, why, like, they break up the marriage, but then they can't get back together after the, I don't know, it's weird. I don't know if it's like, if they get back together, like, Mephisto's like, "Haha, take your aunt's life back," or something. It's kind of ridiculous, but so it happens. They break up the marriage, and that's it. Aunt May gets healthy again, I guess, and Peter goes back to moves back in with his Aunt May, and yeah, starts all over again. Starts dating, everything like that, and from that point forward, Spider-Man, I think, is like never the same. I think this is the end of the last good Peter story we've had in a long time. And if you talk to J. Michael Straczynski, a lot of people give him a hard time for writing the story. He was actually so upset about the story while writing it, he didn't even write the last 2 books. He told Caseta, like, "Yo, dude, I'm not writing this. This is garbage." And he didn't. And Caseta wrote and drew the last couple issues because he really wanted this to happen. And if you think about it, I mean, Dan Slott took over after this, and he had a bunch of really good stories. None of them have that much to do with Peter as the main character. I mean, like, Spider-Verse was really cool, but is Peter really the main character of Spider-Verse? Not really. And then you had Superior Spider-Man. Definitely Peter's not the main character of that story, because Dr. Octopus was. There's like cool things like Big Time, but I mean, after that, they could say a bunch. Since then, there hasn't been very many good Peter stories, so it's a rough time. And we had that Spider-Man No Way Home, which kind of mirrors this a little bit. They used Doctor Strange to make that thing, to erase everyone's memory of Peter. But yeah, when Mephisto did that, everyone forgot who Peter was, that he was Spider-Man as well. So that was part of the deal that helped him out get back, so no one knew his secret identity. And the marriage was gone too, so strange.
Yeah, very strange. But Mephisto-y.
Hated story, right?
I hate it.
Did you hate that one?
I hate it. All right, now we're on to number 3 on the list.
This is where we get the crap de la crap.
It's the crap de la crap. It doesn't make any sense. Again, at all. These are even worse. Anyways, it's Marvel. It's done by Bill James. He worked on other stuff in the past. But all these are Greg Horn covers. There's supposed to be only 6 issues in the series. But they decided to make a number 7 too. Why not?
It's a rare number 7.
Beautiful covers, all of them.
Yeah.
Beautiful covers.
Even Princess just said she knew this was a crappy book.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's
crappy story.
Yeah, it's pretty crappy. Marvel takes place in the Battle World universe. And it's based on, the characters in here are young versions of the X-Men and the Avengers. All together, young versions, and living in this kind of, I believe, high school environment, or living in this kind of town environment. Anyways, they're always like having issues, having battles. They're fighting each other. It's Battle World. They're fighting each other, and they're like, what's the next big thing going on? Another battle. But the story, I believe, all revolves around these 2 people coming into the story, and for some reason they all want to be these 2 people as friends. And their names are Zachary and Zoe, new residents.
A double Z.
Yeah, double Z. Yeah, it's like, Zachary. And it makes sense.
Everybody should find a Zoe.
Yeah. Ooh, Zachary and Zoe.
Zach and Zoe.
Meant to be. And
moved to Marvel.
Basically, the whole story is like everybody fighting over their affections. I'm gonna fight you for be their best friend. No, I'm gonna fight you, and they're all trying to all these groups that not the Eternals. Yeah, the Eternals.
The Eternals are there too.
Yeah, I think the Eternals are there.
Who's the girl on the cover? I always thought that was Mary Jane.
I thought it was Mary Jane too, but that might be Zoe.
Is that Zoe?
Could be Zoe.
Okay.
And
super. Yeah.
It's very confusing. All of these groups come around, starts fighting, trying to be these people's best friends, and in the end, it turns out to be that the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants show up, and they kind of recruit those two to be a part of their team / friends, and that's how the story.
When the whole point of the book is to be their friends.
Yes.
All right.
That's the whole thing. They just want to be these people's friends.
It sounds very superficial.
Yeah. Oh, Zoe and Zachary, you're my best friend. I'm thinking it's like going to be like almost Mean Girls kind of thing, but these two people aren't mean, but they all want to be their friends.
It's like Mean Girls, but they're not mean.
But they're not mean. They all want to be their friends.
That actually made sense.
Yeah.
I don't know. The only thing I know about like Marvel with Zach saying the Battle World is when Secret Wars popped off, the Jonathan Hickman one. They turned Earth into Battle World and split everything up into these little quadrants, and then all these random stories took place, which most of them people liked. Like Spider-Man Renew Your Vows was one of them. Old Man Logan, a whole bunch of cool ones popped up, but there was some crappy ones like Marvel. Although collect the covers, they're pretty cool.
Oh, great!
This whole time I thought that was Mary Jane. It's not Mary Jane.
I don't think so.
It's Zoe. Is Mary Jane even in the story?
I don't think so. I mean, we'll have to double check, but yeah, they don't mention anything about Mary Jane. Maybe I need to read it. Who knows?
It's only 7 issues.
Yeah, it was only supposed to be 6.
I might read it, guys. That's actually of all these crappy things we've seen so far. I might have to read that one, or I'll hate myself. Princess is like, don't read it. Don't read it. A lot of these stories so far have all kind of been in a close time proximity. Our time proximity, like the mid 2000s. We had one early 90s one, right?
Mm-hmm. Let's
do another one. Number 2 on the list. We got an early 90s, not early, mid 90s, 1995 Avengers The Crossing. And I think of a lot of these stories that we've talked about so far, a lot of these I was like, oh yeah, I remember that was a crappy story. And this one was a weird one, although after reading it, I remembered how crappy this was. And this is a really crappy story and very reminiscent of some of the other things. So Bob Harris, Terry Kavanagh wrote this. We've heard Terry Kavanagh before. Mm-hmm. And Mike Deodato Jr. did the artwork on this book. So 95, Marvel's pretty crappy as a whole. I think altogether most of their titles are not that good, but this one was extra bad. And this is so bad that Marvel does not want anybody remember this even ever took place. So we're letting you know something that they want you to ever forget. And it's also not even sure if they even want it to be continuity anymore. Like it was written, they decided this is what it was, and now they're like, if you ask somebody, they're like, that never happened. That never took place. That was so ridiculously bad. Well, what they did was they decided to write a story where Iron Man turned out to be a secret undercover agent for Kang the Conqueror, everyone's favorite villain.
Okay.
The entire time. Since his first appearance in Tales of Suspense, he has been a villain secretly working for Kang so when this came out in 1995, for 30 years, all of the Iron Man books you have read have all been a lie about an evil guy pretending to be a hero. So see how well that worked out.
Yeah.
So as this turned out that Iron Man's a bad guy, what they decided to do was they had this congruent story running at the same time in an alternate reality, a different Earth, not Earth 616. And in that reality, guess what we have? A young and hip Tony Stark in his early 20s. Oh, really young. He might have even been younger than 20. Very young, very cool, new Tony Stark. And what happens when your Tony Stark turns into a bad guy? You go to another dimension, you get a new Tony Stark. So this young Tony pops up and goes over from the alternate reality, and Marvel's like, hey, Peter's really popular because he's young and hip and gets all the ladies. Why don't we do the same thing to Tony and see how well that works out? So they bring over Tony Stark. He's a younger version. They write all these stories about Tony as a young guy. There's a bunch of things that happen. The West Coast Avengers break up. They make this super crappy story called Force Works. If you can't remember the Force Works team, it's because it was super crappy. And they eventually, right after this, they decide how angry everybody was that their Tony was a bad guy the whole time. And they're like, we got to fix this. It only lasted about a year with young Tony, and they actually fixed it in the Heroes Reborn Saga. So another crappy story, but they were able to fix it by getting rid of young Tony, bringing back old Tony in Heroes Reborn, and they were like, shh, don't tell anybody about this Avengers Crossing, which is actually only like one book too. Super weird. It's just one issue called Avengers Crossing #1, a one-shot. And that's why. It's not even like it's not even 10 books, it's not 5 books. It's a one-book event, and it's terrible. Ugh. And they actually made the same mistake later on when they brought back the X-Men, the young X-Men. And they're like, Beast goes back in time and brings the X-Men back as kids again. They try to do it again, and that didn't turn out very well either. So, no more bringing back younger versions of Marvel characters from other dimensions.
No, it's a bad idea.
It's a bad idea. It never turns out well.
Yep. Yeah.
Forget you ever saw Avengers Crossing.
Forget it.
All right. What is the #1 book on the list? Can you guys guess it right now? #1 worst storyline of all time?
Well, I think you guessed by now. The answer is Spider-Man Sins Past, a.k.a. the Coco. No, I'm joking. Sins Past. It came out in 2005, and the people that worked on it, that created this thing, was J. Michael Straczynski.
Yeah.
I can't even say it.
He has good stories, guys.
And Mike Deodato.
Just has a couple bad ones.
Probably Junior? Probably?
Should be at that time, yeah. Yeah.
Alright, so the whole story is that it is revealed in this.
This is a terrible story, too.
Yes.
Terrible.
Yes.
Terrible.
It's Gwen Stacy. It revealed that Gwen Stacy, before she died, had children born alive in the universe before she died. And the father...
Flash Thompson?
Nope.
That would have made more sense.
It would have made more sense. Was, for some reason, the father of Harry Osborn, Norman Osborn. Oh, she had some daddy issues, I'm guessing, right there.
So she had sex with Norman Osborn?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Had sex with Norman Osborn. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And she had twins, a boy and a girl. Double the fun. Great stuff. And, to hide it, she went to France to conceive these children.
Which actually happens in continuity. She does go to France back in the day. But doesn't have kids that, we're aware of until 2005.
Yes. And when the kids...
30-something years later.
Yes. And when she has the kids, she vows to herself and to others. She doesn't tell Peter. But she vows that she's going to, have these kids and raise them with Peter Parker. And they're going to have a great life. And that Norman will never be able to meet them. Ever.
Never.
So... It's Norman was pretty upset about that, so he decides that he's gonna kill her, and that's what happened.
That's why he decided to kill her.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, because she was affecting his ability to raise these kids that are gonna be his heirs, and he won't let that happen.
Except he already had Harry as a kid too.
Harry was.
I think he was a drug addict at this time.
Yeah.
Pills, I believe, around this time frame.
He will not be my progeny no more. He's not my heir. Well, anyways. The kids are born. Gwen Stacy's dead, So guess what he does? He raises the kids. Yeah, and I believe the kids are named, let's see if I can get this right. It's like Gabriel and Sarah. Named Gabriel and Sarah. And, you know, time fast forward, they're babies, now they're
Don't
adults.
they get like an aging serum too?
Yeah.
Like ages them up?
Yes, I was going to get you the
Oh.
Yeah, and you know, they got the blood of, you know, Norman Osborn, and they're a little crazy.
Little goblin blood?
Yeah.
Little goblin juice?
Yeah, ages them 3 to 4 times faster than normal people, right?
Of course.
And great stuff.
30 years in our time is only like 2 years in their time.
Yes. Well, I believe
or 3 years.
They're of age. They're of age right now, and they're like, "What happened to our mother and our mother? What's going on?" And he tells them that was big bad Peter Parker that did it. So of course they're a little upset about it, and they go confront him. They don't believe him. They get into a fight. Whatever. Gabriel becomes the Gray Goblin. He takes the serum, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he becomes the Gray Goblin. Goes even crazier. His aging gets stable, but he becomes a little bit crazier. And the girl eventually believes him, but they have to figure. I believe she gets shot by I think the Gray Goblin.
Kills his own sister?
Nope, doesn't kill her.
Okay.
Doesn't kill her, but she needs a blood transplant from guess who? Peter Parker. And so that stabilizes her, and she's mentally clear. So, yeah.
So the blood of Peter Parker heals mental insanity?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. From
that
the
makes
Green
sense.
Goblin blood. I don't know.
Irradiated spider blood
Yeah.
can cure your mental illness.
Yeah, apparently. And, that's basically the story. Oh, yeah.
So did they go away?
No, they're still around.
What are they doing?
Just hanging out. I mean...
Are they both
here and
good
there.
or are they both bad?
I think, the Gabriel's bad.
Okay.
Might have gotten good later. But the extra little drama is that Mary Jane, once Peter Parker says that, I found out that Gwen Stacy had kids and all this stuff, and, that's why the Green Goblin killed her, Norman. It's like, and Mary Jane Watson says, I know, I had a letter.
Yeah,
She knew
the whole time.
She knew the whole time.
Yeah, I did remember that.
Wow.
Is this the one too, like where when Gwen dies, like while she's dying, she sees that Peter is Spider-Man and realizes she hates him at the same time?
I actually don't know. I didn't say that.
Okay.
That sounds about right. But why would she hate him?
Because she hates Spider-Man because he killed Captain Stacy, or she thinks that he did.
Yeah.
So when she finally sees while she's dying, like falling off the building, she's like, Spider-Man. Or like she pretends to be asleep, I think in the storyline or something like that.
Ah, okay, yeah. Yeah, but why didn't she try to kill him?
I don't know.
Could have worked with it.
Because they like retconned a story like 30 years later where that actually didn't happen.
Let's add that to piss off people. Why not? I
don't know. There you go, guys. The top 10 worst storylines in Marvel history. I don't know. I agree that they're pretty much all bad. I don't know if I know the order. I'd say maybe One More Days might be worse than Past Sins, but
yeah, it's pretty bad.
There's some bad ones in there.
Pretty bad.
And definitely this list really left out a lot of the newer stories, so I didn't really see anything past like, in the 2020s or, late 20-teens, which there's been some bad ones. I don't know about as bad as these ones, but Spider-Man seemed to get the bulk of the bad stories. He had 4 books on the list.
Yes.
4 books out of the 10 were Peter Parker. He is the most beloved character in Marvel, though, so it kind of makes sense that people would get angry about it. But we'd love to hear what you guys think about this list. If you think it was in the right order, let us know if you agree with the list or if you think there's a story that's even worse. List it down below in the comments. Do us a huge favor right now. Subscribe to the show and hit the like button for Princess. She sat the whole back of the show while we rambled on about the worst stories in Marvel history.
Pretty bad.
And Zach, you got anything special before we go?
Yeah, sure. How you do that is you have to get a good writer to write the story always, so you don't get any more of this crap. And that's how you get those writing accolades.
Well, it might not always just be bad writers.
I'm not talking bad about that.
Yeah.
It
could
happens.
be someone picking out a bad story for a writer to write. Maybe a lot of these, I bet they didn't even want to write them.
Yeah, but look how many people actually work on the story. You got the people that contribute a lot to the idea of it, and then you got the writer.
Yeah.
So you got so many people going.
You know who you blame?
Who?
The editor. Or you just blame Marvel.
Yeah, no one really cares about the editor. So let's blame the editor.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, editors. I'm sorry.
All right, guys. Maybe one of the longest episodes we've ever done, but it's been exciting and fun. So until we see you next time, Coco says, stay safe and remember, get 'em.